When we think of Harry Potter, the immediate picture that comes to mind is that of a brave, loyal young man, destined for greatness because of his parents' sacrifices, especially his mother, Lily Potter. However, in the realm of fan theories, things aren't always as simple as they seem. One of the most shocking theories that has circulated within the Harry Potter community suggests that Harry Potter may not be James Potter's son at all. He could, in fact, be the son of Lucius Malfoy, making him a Malfoy by blood. This theory has captivated fans due to its intricacy and the surprising connections it draws between Harry and the Malfoy family. The basis for this theory stems from several key similarities between Harry and Draco Malfoy, which could suggest a deeper connection than just their status as rivals. One of the more peculiar pieces of evidence comes from Harry's uncanny ability to speak Parseltongue, the ability to communicate with snakes, a trait traditionally associated with Slytherin bloodlines. Though Harry inherited this ability from Voldemort, who was a descendant of Salazar Slytherin, there are those who speculate that the Parseltongue connection might actually run deeper. Lucius Malfoy, as a prominent member of the Malfoy family, has always been portrayed as a powerful wizard with deep ties to the dark arts. Some fans argue that this shared connection to dark magic could be a subtle clue about Harry's true parentage. Moreover, the fact that Harry and Draco share some physical characteristics, particularly their strikingly similar features, has led some fans to wonder if Harry's striking green eyes and pale complexion might have more to do with Lucius than they do with James. In fact, some even speculate that Harry's iconic glasses could be another subtle nod to his supposed father, Lucius, given that Lucius is often depicted with similarly precise and sharp features in the books and films. To further explore this theory, it's essential to understand the complex relationships between the key players in Harry's life, particularly his mother, Lily Potter, and Lucius Malfoy. In the world of the wizarding elite, the Malfoys and the Potters were known to have a tense, somewhat antagonistic relationship, but this could have been a surface-level issue. In reality, Lily and Lucius were both students at Hogwarts during the same time, and although Lily was a Gryffindor, the two were still in close proximity to one another during their years at school. Could they have shared a secret that no one else knew? This theory posits that Lily, despite her outward distaste for the Malfoys, could have become romantically involved with Lucius at some point, particularly during a time when she was distancing herself from James Potter or struggling with personal demons. We know from the books that Lily was highly independent and sometimes distanced herself from others to avoid certain complications. Could she have formed a bond with Lucius, an older, more established wizard, especially given the volatile dynamics of her relationship with James? Fans who support this theory point to Lucius's role as a powerful figure in the wizarding world and his reputation for dark magic. The allure of such power could have been difficult for Lily to resist, especially if her marriage to James was already on rocky ground. The theory suggests that Lily may have had a brief affair with Lucius, resulting in her pregnancy with Harry. In this scenario, she could have kept the secret to protect Harry and his legacy, knowing that Lucius was too dangerous to be his father. Lily's ultimate decision to raise Harry as her own might have been driven by the desire to protect him from Lucius's influence and, ultimately, from the dark side of the wizarding world. Another compelling aspect of this theory revolves around the deaths of Harry's parents. The theory suggests that Lily and James's deaths were not just the result of a random act of violence by Voldemort. In fact, it claims that Voldemort's curse on Harry was not intended to kill him, but rather to destroy his connection to his true father, Lucius Malfoy. This theory suggests that Lily's death was part of a larger plot to conceal Harry's true parentage and ensure that he would be raised as a Potter, not a Malfoy. This idea aligns with the fact that Voldemort, as a dark wizard, was keen on maintaining control over the wizarding world and would not have allowed Harry, as a potential heir of one of his greatest enemies, to live freely. Thus, in his obsession with achieving immortality, Voldemort would have made sure that Harry's lineage remained hidden in order to manipulate the story in his favor. However, the theory also implies that Voldemort's curse on Harry may have been more about obscuring the truth about Harry's true heritage rather than killing him outright, thus giving Harry a chance to rise up and fight for his own survival. If Harry Potter were indeed a Malfoy by blood, it would explain several significant dynamics in the story. First, it would explain Harry's ability to connect with Draco Malfoy on some level. Despite their rivalry, Harry and Draco share some common ground, especially when it comes to their moral struggles and their complex family histories. Their relationship, though strained and full of animosity, might actually be based on a deeper, more familial bond than either of them realizes. Secondly, this theory would radically change Harry's relationship with the Malfoy family, particularly with Draco. If Harry were a Malfoy, it would challenge the very core of the Malfoy family's values. Lucius Malfoy, who is steadfastly loyal to the dark side, would be forced to confront the reality of his own son's connection to the very people he despised. The tension between Harry and Draco would reach a new level of complexity, and their eventual friendship would take on an entirely different dynamic. Moreover, the revelation that Harry was, in fact, a Malfoy would add a layer of complexity to his eventual decision to stand against Voldemort. If Harry had Malfoy blood running through his veins, his ultimate rejection of the dark side would be even more powerful. It would symbolize a final defiance against the very legacy that Voldemort sought to control. There are subtle clues scattered throughout the Harry Potter series that might support this theory. While none of these clues provide definitive proof, they offer intriguing glimpses into the hidden depths of Harry's background. One clue is Harry's remarkable abilities, particularly his tendency to understand complex magical phenomena, which could suggest that his magical prowess is far more sophisticated than simply being a Potter. The subtle mention of Harry's family's past, his parents' connections to powerful figures like Dumbledore and the Malfoys, also opens up new possibilities. And let's not forget the fact that Harry, as a young child, always had a sense of inner strength that seemed to emerge from nowhere. Was it simply his parents' love, or was it the influence of his biological father, Lucius Malfoy, coursing through him? While there may be no clear, hard evidence linking Harry Potter to the Malfoy family, this theory raises important questions about the true nature of his family history. Could there be more to Harry's bloodline than we've been led to believe? Could he have been born into a family rife with secrets, deception, and dangerous legacies? The theory that Harry Potter might be a Malfoy certainly challenges our perceptions of the character, his family, and his ultimate journey. While it's far from being universally accepted, it offers an intriguing alternate version of the story, one that redefines the relationships between some of the most iconic figures in the wizarding world. Whether or not this theory is true, it raises important questions about identity, family, and the sacrifices made in the name of love. As with many fan theories, the most interesting ideas come not from hard evidence, but from the deeper exploration of characters, themes, and the motivations behind their actions. And perhaps, in this case, the theory of Harry being a Malfoy might just be the most shocking revelation of them all. The theory that Harry Potter could be a Malfoy unravels even more deeply when you begin to look at the intricate details of his relationships with key members of the wizarding world. The connection between Harry and Draco Malfoy, though initially one of rivalry, takes on an entirely new dimension when viewed through the lens of this theory. If Harry is indeed a Malfoy by blood, their dynamic would be much more complicated than a simple hatred between two boys from opposing houses. The theory suggests that there are hidden links that not only tie Harry to Draco, but also to Lucius Malfoy, his biological father. One of the most compelling aspects of this theory is the relationship between Harry and Lucius. Throughout the series, Lucius Malfoy is portrayed as one of the leading figures of the dark wizarding world, a man deeply tied to Voldemort's regime. However, despite his affiliation with the dark side, Lucius's relationship with Harry seems to be far more complex than just the typical villain-hero dynamic. Lucius is an influential figure who holds a significant amount of power, and the fact that Harry repeatedly encounters him in various ways suggests a deeper, albeit hidden, connection. For example, in Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, Lucius uses his influence to get Draco into Hogwarts and is known to be a key figure in the Malfoy family's interest in Harry. It's not just a personal vendetta, there seems to be something more at play. What if the reason Lucius showed such an intense interest in Harry was not because of their animosity, but because he knew the truth of Harry's parentage? What if the Malfoys, with their wealth and status, were keenly aware that Harry was their own flesh and blood, but were determined to keep this secret for reasons of power and control? This theory opens up an entirely new realm of possibility, suggesting that Lucius's cruelty and manipulation toward Harry were, in part, a result of his desire to keep Harry in the dark and, more importantly, away from any power that might disrupt the balance of power the Malfoy family held in the wizarding world. Additionally, when we look at Draco's relationship with Harry, we see that the rivalry between the two is far more than just schoolyard bickering. Throughout the series, Draco's actions, whether it's in trying to uncover Harry's secrets or his ongoing role as a foil to Harry, hint at a deeper connection. Draco's father, Lucius, is known to be very calculating and manipulative, and it's not too much of a stretch to assume that Draco would have inherited these traits. This theory posits that the reason Draco is so constantly at odds with Harry is not just due to house rivalries or family expectations, but because Draco, on some level, understands the truth about their shared bloodline. His rivalry is not just about competition, but also a struggle for power and recognition within the wizarding world. It's a dynamic where family legacy, bloodlines, and dark secrets play a role in the lives of both Harry and Draco. The idea that Harry could be a Malfoy also ties into his relationship with his own identity. Throughout the series, Harry is often seen grappling with his sense of self, especially after the revelations about his parents. When Harry learns of his parents' tragic death and the prophecy that ties him to Voldemort, he struggles with understanding who he is beyond just being the boy who lived. His identity is shaped by the legacy of his parents, but also by the dark forces around him. But what if Harry had always been unsure of his true lineage? The theory that Harry is a Malfoy suggests that Harry's struggle with his identity is even more profound than we initially thought. If Harry were indeed a Malfoy, his whole life up until that point would have been based on a lie, a fabricated history constructed to hide his true parentage. This would also explain why Harry, despite all his bravery and loyalty to the people he loves, often shows a tendency to be drawn to people with a darker side. It's as if he gravitates toward what he doesn't know, what he's never fully understood about his own family. This theory posits that Harry's affinity for understanding the darker aspects of magic, his ability to connect with snakes, a trait common among Slytherins, the house most associated with the Malfoy family, and his eventual ability to stand up to Voldemort is all tied to his true nature. Harry struggles with these darker aspects of himself, from his link to Voldemort to his deep internal battle with the legacies of his parents, could all be explained if his true parentage were tied to the Malfoys. He could be fighting not just to defeat Voldemort, but also to escape the grip of a family legacy that he never chose. As the theory continues to unfold, it raises more questions about the Malfoy family dynamics. How much did Lucius Malfoy truly know about Harry's existence? Was he simply playing the role of a villainous stepfather figure to a son who he knew had inherited his blood? Was his treatment of Harry a way to ensure that Harry never discovered the truth about his true heritage, thus maintaining control over the wizarding world's perception of Harry as a Potter rather than a Malfoy? The other major question raised by this theory is the role of Lily Potter. How did she factor into this hidden family history? Lily was fiercely loyal to her friends, particularly Severus Snape, and had a deep sense of love and compassion. But in this alternate version of the story, could Lily have kept the truth of Harry's biological father hidden from James Potter? Or was she herself unaware of the truth? Given her own emotional turmoil and personal struggles, could Lily have made choices that involved keeping Harry's paternity a secret from everyone, even herself? The fact that Harry's bloodline has always been a significant part of his identity makes it even more intriguing that Lily's role might have been concealed as part of the larger mystery. Moreover, if Harry were truly a Malfoy, what impact would this revelation have on the relationships he forms with other characters in the series? For example, how would his friendship with Ron Weasley be affected if Harry were actually a Malfoy? Ron's family has always been portrayed as being fiercely loyal to the Potters, and the idea that Harry could be a Malfoy would certainly complicate things, especially given the deep animosity between the Weasleys and the Malfoys. The revelation would force Harry to confront not only the reality of his bloodline, but also the relationships he's built in his life. It would create a deep divide between his past and present, and force him to reconcile the love and loyalty he feels toward the people he's grown up with. Throughout the Harry Potter series, we see Harry struggle with the concept of family, especially after the death of his parents. But if Harry were truly a Malfoy, this struggle would be even more pronounced. He would have to come to terms with not only the loss of his parents, but also the betrayal of a family who never truly loved him. If Harry were indeed a Malfoy, his journey would take on an even darker tone, one where the fight for his identity and legacy becomes central to the plot. He would not just be fighting against Voldemort, but also against the dark history of his own bloodline. This theory, though speculative and far-fetched to some, sheds light on the complex web of relationships, mysteries, and dark legacies that make the Harry Potter universe so compelling. It invites us to reimagine the central characters, their relationships, and their motivations in a new light. Would Harry's journey have been different if he were a Malfoy? Could his ultimate triumph over Voldemort be tied to a revelation about his true parentage? Whatever the answers may be, the theory of Harry Potter's true parentage opens up new dimensions of thought, inviting fans to explore the wizarding world in ways they never imagined before.